just thought it was the worst call of the year. That's all.
We're not going to make promises, but I tell you this.
Yeah, I'm about to get wild. I know that. When it's get wild.
I don't answer anybody's question but yours. But you're an idiot. And really disloyal.
Hello and welcome to Snowmageddon 2026 here in the Eastern Seaboard. Christian de Guzman, Andy Pergo, and Steve Howell with you. It's the Disloyal Idiots podcast here on the Fans First Sports Network, where all three of us are very much used to the thing that is falling from the sky at this particular moment.
Hopped on my Tauntaun, went to Wegmans, came back, problem solved.
It was very funny to see the number of people out and about who very clearly in New York City who knew what was happening, and then the people who were like, oh my dear God. Shout out to whoever tried to take their Honda Civic with a like speed thing at the back of it, like one of those little, I forget what they're called,
The
but
spoiler
things.
yeah. It was trying to drive that in today's weather and then got stuck in the middle of our intersection. You know, great time there. Everybody gave him a cheer when he was able to move it off to the side. And last time I checked, it is now covered in with plow snow. So don't think that's going to be moving anytime. Cannot see the spoiler anymore.
That's perfectly classic New York. Just leave it there and move around it. No problem. Like, all right. Guess that's there
Nothing
now.
to see here.
Exactly. Nothing to see here.
Speaking of things that we don't want to see here, Syracuse basketball, man. Side of the road, left for dead. Nothing to see here. We had not another 0-2 week. I believe last week we went 1-1 when Christian and I hopped on the pod. This week the team goes 0-2, 2 rough losses at the Dome. Wednesday night to Virginia Tech, blown lead there. Syracuse was up by as many as I believe 8 in the second half and ends up losing that one. And then yesterday, Saturday's loss to Miami, where game was at times close, but Miami was always relatively in control. They end up winning that one by 10 after the team decides to just stop trying in the fourth quarter at a certain period of time, which we'll probably get into here. But like Steve, we'll start with you because Christian and I, if you're new here or you didn't listen to last week's show, Christian and I kind of vented our frustrations at the program, at the current situation. I don't think anything that we're going to say is going to be dramatically different than last week. So, Steve, since you weren't here last week, as the person here who has seen more basketball than us, this is by far and away the worst stretch of Syracuse basketball in the history of the program, as pointed out by James Zuba after the Virginia Tech loss. How are you coming to grips with that? We
suck again. Thank you guys for listening to the Disloyal Idiots. We'll see you next week. And that's the whole pod. No, it's been, I don't know, like that BC game was bad enough.
No, really, what makes you say?
Everything. all the this of it all.
Oh, fascinating. Wow.
Yeah. Like these last 3 games, they found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They look like the goddamn Broncos trying to beat the Bills out there. Just handing games away left and right. Even the Miami game, like there were 2 points where there was momentum that was swinging in Syracuse's direction. One of them, Kyan Anthony decides to throw down an amazing dunk and had to stay up on the rim to not ended up teabagging the guy, but otherwise could have come down crashing through his shoulders, which got the Dome going crazy and then proceeded to go directly to TV timeout, and all momentum that was remotely close was lost. And then later in the game, when they're mounting a comeback and within 2, J.J. Starling decides to doink the shit out of a dunk.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, those 2 plays are just microcosms of what the hell has been going on with Syracuse basketball these past couple of years. It's just like, what? Every time you do something good, it somehow gets screwed up. And that seems to be where we are.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing about this team is that with the exception of the Iowa State game, Syracuse has an opportunity to win every single game they've lost this year.
Yeah.
And they simply haven't.
Right. There's
And-
pieces of this puzzle that are really, really good looking.
Yeah. And now we're at the point where that becomes coaching instead of just the talent on the floor. Because I think a lot of people are starting to realize, again, that the talent's there on the floor. I've seen growing support for Alex Klein and a want to keep him around if a change is going to happen at the end of the season. But at some point, like, there's enough talent on the floor to have Syracuse win these games. And at some point, like, something else is the reason why that talent is not getting the job done. It can't be just the players.
Yeah. And it's not on Klein. That's an X's and O's thing. That's 100% on Red and his staff of you have guys that are talented, guys that have showed out, guys that have shown us what they can do. And you run the same offense we've seen for the last how many years with minor tweaks to it that hasn't worked ever. Like since Jim shifted to something that looked like this, it's never worked. And I don't know, it just seems like every game is the same thing. Like there's no changes, there's no tweaks that are above and beyond a couple of, random things that you probably picked up on a scouting report. And it's the definition of insanity. We're just seeing the same thing over and over again every single game.
Hockey line changes.
Yeah.
Weird matchups. One of the things that I was talking with a friend about during the Miami game was the consistent regression of seniors coming to Syracuse over the last few years. And a lot of that obviously is fit and coaching. Someone like Nate George came in with a very specific role and has just continued to struggle as he is being asked to do things that were not part of that role at Georgia Tech, like shooting threes.
For the record,
and I think
we could really use that role.
Yeah, shocker! A true point guard who can help push tempo in transition with a team that looks like it has a lot of fun in transition. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we talked about it in the offseason. When we saw these guys all coming in and lined up to come in, we're like, oh, we got a true point guard. We got a couple of solid fours that are coming in. We've got, young kids at the 2 and the 3, and William Kyle is a question mark. We actually, I believe, if you go back, we're the most down on Kyle, who, in my opinion, has turned out to be the MVP of the goddamn team.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Which again goes more towards the theory or trend that this is not an Alex Klein issue. It's all a coaching issue.
Yeah, I think the microcosm of this is Kyan Anthony, and the reason I'm going to focus in on him. Obviously, he had his best game against a power conference opponent in the Miami game, was hitting his shots, looked to be in rhythm, but as Steve kind of mentioned, was not immune to weird moments where momentum were randomly lost due to poor decision-making or poor execution. Because one of the things that I think is very obvious with this team is that there is not a true three-point threat out there consistently. It's supposed to be Kings. It's supposed to be Betsy. The decision-making of when those two are on the floor and who they're on the floor with continues to be baffling. But the Kyan was able to hit some threes, but we know that's not his game. And I think it was Brent Axe on his podcast this week that was kind of talking about how it very much appears in game, if you are at the Dome and watching, Kyan is getting coached by both his dad, who happens to be, the greatest player in program history and an NBA Hall of Famer, and being coached by Red. And it appears as if the two are giving very opposite pieces of direction, which is something that you would really hope would have been discussed at the beginning of the season when you're bringing him in. And I say this to say, at times, you see Kyan just kind of stand around and look to be a spot up shooter from the perimeter. And I'm just going to say this. Whoever is telling him that that is his role needs to stop telling him that that is his role. Whoever told him on the inbounds play, when I think we were down 7, that when we had the ball, I think there was a 10 seconds on the shot clock, and whoever drew up the inbounds play and said, Cayenne, get the ball to Cayenne off of a roll on the top of the key and let him hit a falling back 3 from the corner. That obviously clanked out. Miami went down the other way, put up another 3, and what could have been a 5 or a 4-point deficit became yet again another 10-point deficit. Whoever is giving Cayenne those instructions or designing the play for Cayenne specifically should not be doing that. And it was just like, it's just so obvious that the current system that is in place for these guys at times can work with their strengths, but more often than not, now that the competition has narrowed, is costing us rather than helping us.
For those who know me, it's no secret that I work on the behind-the-scenes broadcasts for these basketball games. And so I'm very in tune to what the commentators are saying. Now, both of these were said on the air, so there's no hiding this. Both color commentators in this week had very clear opinions about what Syracuse was doing at a very specific time, that it's just a microcosm of not just the season, but honestly something that has been transpiring over the program for the past X amount of years. Randolph Childress during midweek immediately points out how there's no ball movement, essentially saying the quiet part out loud. And just you could feel the frustration in his voice when he's just seeing the ball standing still on the elbow and nothing's happening, and 10 seconds of the shot clock goes away like that, and oh crap, it's single digit shot clock, and whoever has the ball just has to magically try an ISO. And how many times have we said that on this podcast for the past 5 years?
Yeah.
And how many times have we said that just between us and our friend groups for years before that?
Now,
And then we'll get to the second part later because Andy brought it up earlier, and I know that's probably going to take a longer conversation.
I'm sure that one will. I guess the thing in that vein too is there's no ball movement, but there's also no off ball movement.
When was the last time Syracuse had off ball movement?
I don't know, but how many times can you possibly see George standing at the top of the key at the 3-point line extended and like sitting there waiting for a pick from Kyle, or Kyle's out there looking to, have him move somewhere, and he's just standing there. Both wings are just standing there, and there's somebody kind of in the mid-range. And that's it. And there's no movement. There's no ball movement. No one's passing. No one's moving their feet. Nothing is happening. And it's just like, what are we doing? We're just standing there for 30 seconds and then wondering why we don't get a shot off.
One of the most frustrating things for me to see on this offense is how many touches Kyle gets on the ball when he's at the very top of the arc. And he shouldn't be touching the ball on the perimeter. He should be on the perimeter to sit picks. But somehow the ball is always getting to him for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, he should literally be getting the ball in a situation where a guard is running off of him and he's dumping it down low, and that is it. That is the only time he should touch the ball that far from the
because he's holding onto that ball on the perimeter for so long. Almost every time he gets it there. And it's happening multiple times a game.
Yep.
Sometimes happening multiple times a possession.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we have to talk about this stuff, we're using specifics of these players. And yes, that's what's happening right now. But this isn't a snapshot in Syracuse history. This is something that's been recurring.
It's a Martin Scorsese movie. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a Christopher Nolan movie that's shot on IMAX. And wait a minute, there's another reel round loaded in the magazine.
Oh yeah. We're living Syracuse Inception right now. But yeah, I don't know. Every time we have one of these games where there's a shadow of a chance and then we find a way to lose it, it's just one more dagger into the heart of this program. As dumb as that sounds.
it was, again, I want to really call this out again from our sister site News Magician, James Zuba's recap after the Virginia Tech game. He broke down something that I was genuinely astounded by, which the last time that Syracuse missed 5 straight NCAA tournaments was during the transition of Mark Gooley and Fred Lewis from 1960 to 65. Meaning that Syracuse has never missed the postseason in 5 straight years while we have been a member of a conference, which I believe would also mean that since the NCAA tournament went to 64 teams, we have not missed 5 consecutive tournaments. I mean, we could do what we do every week, which is like read off the Ken Palm, read off the net rating, but like it's not good. Like Syracuse is now fallen to 74th in Ken Palm. And I believe that we're below Wake Forest now in the ACC. So that probably puts us 12th in the ACC, 13th in the ACC. Net rating is going to be much less kind to us. Yeah, we're 79th in net rating. Like we are once again bottom half of the ACC. Like this, even during the worst of the Boeheim runs, Boeheim had us solid mid-table team. And right now, much like our friends at West Ham, we have now fallen to the bottom of the table and have no idea how to get back up. And
was that a dig at our former host here?
It might have been a dig at our former host who's currently at a Seattle Los Angeles game that is taking place at the same time here. But
yep.
Love you, John. But yes, it's bad, man. Like I don't know. We continue to talk about the specifics of why it's bad, but it's the same reason that it was bad last year. It's the same reason it was bad the year before. It's the same reason it was bad under the last few years of Jim Boeheim. Jeez, I almost had
what's that?
Literally losing my mind here. But like it's just a worse version of how it was under Boeheim. But it's all the same reasons. It's the exact same recipe. It's the exact same formula. It's the exact same issues. So, I mean, to Steve's point, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I think that the only logical explanation here is that we have to do something different.
Let's talk about thing number 2, I think.
Is it time to have a conversation?
From our vegetables to more vegetables?
Yeah.
Or worse vegetables?
Mm-hmm. So for those who didn't watch the broadcast, Syracuse is obviously not in a good position against Miami late in that game. They're down by 9 points at that point. However, in the final minute of the game, Miami breaks press multiple times. And then Syracuse doesn't foul Miami. And this irates Eric Diefendorf on the call. Who you can clearly hear him say, like, they have to foul. Why are they not fouling? And that, to me, is the point where, like, that was my point of no return. Like you have to show something. You signed up to play a full 60 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever.
I think it might have been the third time they started pressing or tried to press. They had someone cornered backcourt, probably about halfway down the backcourt. And I can't remember who was trapping or like started the trap, but a quick response would have been put us in a solid position to, stop all and, trap them. I watched Betsy just kind of walk over kind of casually in that vein. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure we've lost the locker room at this point. It just seemed like there was no gas in the tank.
Which again has happened multiple seasons with Red. Like,
yeah,
this is the same thing that happened in his first year. It's the same thing that happened last year. We get to see one of those guys, Kadir Copeland, this week when Syracuse travels to Raleigh to play NC State, and what I am not looking forward to.
Kadir Copeland, who dropped 20 on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. Like, and here's something that I think we need to just make really clear. even if Syracuse wanted to get rid of Red Autry today, they shouldn't, because the new NCAA transfer portal rules say that when a team changes their coach, their entire team, regardless of when it happens, has 14 days to enter the transfer portal, either when the new coach is hired, or if the new coach is not hired within 30 days on the 31st day, which means that for Syracuse, you can't really do anything with Red until your last game of the season is at least 30 days away, which means that no matter what, we're probably sticking with this through early February at the earliest.
Which I don't see it happening, but if something turns around, it is what it is. Like, I mean, there is no point in making the move right now. It's, I don't know what the poaching rules are on coaches compared to players, but I'm pretty sure you can start having conversations with adults at various points in time.
Exactly.
It should still
Hey,
be.
look at Ole Miss LSU. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there were definitely conversations had.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin was definitely working the Doc Gross multiple phones. Good throwback there for those who have been around long enough.
I mean, that's still a GIF in our SB Nation, or a reaction in our SB Nation Slack. So
Hashtag brand.
It's so great and horrible and all of the above. Speaking of administrators, another reason why we can't particularly move from Red is, like, we know that Kent is going, right?
Yes.
He's already, the deal with Michigan is public.
Yes. You weren't here when we were talking about this. Andy and I did a whole segment on this as well. Kent Severud is indeed leaving Syracuse. He was previously retiring, but is instead now going to Michigan to become their president. As previously planned, he is staying with Syracuse until June, at which point he will then go to Michigan.
So what do you do with a revenue sport coach when you have, like, I have no idea what Wildhack status is, but I know he and, like, I think him and Kent were kind of a thing, right? Like, Kent's the one that brought him in from ESPN. So if he's going, even if Wildhack is still around, your boss is now somebody new. Like, do you're pulling in a new head coach under a lame duck president or chancellor? Like, what's the impetus for this, and how's it going to work out? You know what I mean? Like, how do the logistics of firing and hiring in this time frame, in this weird kind of in between, if Kent's gone, like, just sitting until June, where is that? Like, where's any definitive anything for that? How do you reconcile that? Which,
It's
always something.
No, I think that you hit the nail on the head here, where this is where things are going to be really tricky for Syracuse, the institution here, because there are plenty of rumors, but nothing confirmed as to whether or not we are going to have Wildhack sticking around beyond this season or not. There's plenty of speculation over whether or not Red will stay or not. And the reality is that with the transfer portal, you have a very tight window to make these decisions. Essentially, you have to decide, will Red be your coach next season? You have to make that decision by middle of March, because the transfer portal opens, I believe, the week after the NCAA final. And as I mentioned, at any point, if you decide to get rid of Red after that, whatever team you put together in April has the ability to then just walk out the door later in the season.
Right.
And so it becomes a situation where, to Steve, your point, I genuinely hope that Syracuse behind the scenes is at least moving with enough self-awareness to say, okay, we have a decent idea who our next chancellor is going to be because Kent gave the all clear back in August. Like, this has been, you've had a year to plan for this.
Andy, we're Syracuse
you,
fans.
I know that's the problem. I have yet to see a functioning organization and institution should have a short list, if not be in final negotiations with an existing chancellor, as we saw what Michigan did with Kent Severud. Okay, like, look, we saw it happen with Kent, so we know that Syracuse is probably in communication with whoever they want to have. Whoever they want to have should have an idea after the interview process if Wildhack is sticking around or not. Based off of those decisions, there should be some sort of timeline moving of whoever we want to make this decision should be involved with the decision. But I'm unclear. I'm unclear as to Steve, your point, if we have that level of coordination behind the scenes, especially with something like basketball, where, and I was talking to my wife about this, your biggest program name is sitting courtside at every game for the first time since he graduated or since he left Syracuse University. And I can only imagine, if Red is not the basketball coach next year, how much influence Carmelo Anthony is going to have over deciding who is the next coach, especially if Syracuse has a vested interest in keeping Cayenne in orange.
Oh,
Or just Melo's
what's he gonna
influence
do?
on the program in general.
Yeah. What's he going to do? Take his name off the building?
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that you want him to donate the $5 to $10 million in NIL to jumpstart whoever is coming in.
That would
and
be
prove
a wonderful
that it's
thing.
a new era.
No, and that's it. It really, like, it sounds weird to say, but we are in uncharted territory for Syracuse based on the state of college basketball, the state of Syracuse basketball, and the current team composition. Like, Kyle, your team MVP, is a super senior already. A couple of other folks are definitely moving on. You have a young core in White and Anthony, and that can do something maybe if you get the right pieces around them. But where is that going to come from without any solid plan for a coach or solid structure around it? So uncharted territory yet again for a Syracuse sports team. Weird.
It is scary, but it's also, if you want to be optimistic, the recipe for jumpstarting this program is fairly easy. Go out and find a coach like I think Michigan's a great example here, not just because of the Kent of it all, but Michigan went out and got a head coach who had been winning at a lower level through excellent coaching, because there just was not the same level of NIL. So you have to win on coaching and development and talent evaluation. Brought him to an ecosystem that had infinite more money and resources and said, okay, cook. And Michigan is one of the best teams in college basketball after not being that since the last time that they were in a Final Four against, one Syracuse Orange program, which I believe was 2016?
2013.
2013. Wow. So it's been a lot longer than I remember. Jeez.
13 was the last good run, and then 18 was the weird run.
Thank you.
No,
that's the
2013 was the last good run, and then we had three weird runs in 16, 18, and 21.
Right, but 18 was the only Final Four, right?
16 was the Final Four.
16 was the Final Four?
16 was the Final Four. 18 and 21 were Sweet 16s.
All the 19 win seasons that we eked into the tournament and made the later rounds blend together at this juncture.
as they should. But yeah, I think
The only reason I remember is because I was covering them.
that's
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's kind of how it works, Christian, unfortunately. But yeah, but like that, my point is that like for Syracuse, no, we don't have Michigan money cannon money, but we do happen to have Carmelo Anthony money. And I think all you need is 1 year to prove that this is back, and you'll get the alumni donation support needed to kind of carry this forward. Because as much as the three of us will sit here and say football, 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 we all know what the big pocketed alumni want Syracuse to be good at. And it's the shooty hoop sport that doesn't require nearly as much money as football does.
May I interest people in what Indiana football did?
We are going to talk about Fran attempting to pull in Indiana in a little bit now that the transfer portal window seems to be mostly closed for Syracuse. But unfortunately, much like with Indiana, people aren't going to believe it until it happens. People aren't going to buy into it until it happens. And so someone in the Syracuse world needs to start making authentically licensed, authentic throwback, vintage college apparel that then starts sponsoring every sports podcast under the sun. Until that happens, I don't know where the money for the football team is going to come from. So shout out to our friends at Home Field, who I don't know if you guys saw, basically got featured on every single sports outlet.
Yeah,
like they were on ESPN, they were on the New York Times, they were on Fox, they were on NBC. Everybody gave Home Field their flowers, and I'm pretty sure Connor has been on a month-long bender. So prayers up to Connor, who has a 2-year-old.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, what happens if Syracuse goes into the college football playoff 3 years ago when Seabass is tiny and 2?
I was gonna say 3 years ago he was 5, dude.
Oh, jeez. God damn. Okay, that's the Andy is old. That's the new bingo square for
there we go.
2026.
Congrats, Steve is broken out of it.
Yay. Andy is old, Steve is older.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basketball's rough right now. I think it's too early to say that like Steve said, it's too early to have anything happen. Let's talk about something else. Unless you guys have any other thoughts on basketball besides, goddamn, please win some stupid games coming up to salvage this.
I mean, I guess that's the weird thing too, is like you have to make that move quick and decisively to maintain any of the people that you want to to keep any of the people you want to keep on the roster too. And this is, I mean, for one, we're all saying this as if it's a foregone conclusion that Red is gone, which I believe all three of us think. However, again, we're fans of Syracuse. We've seen this play out before. And I don't know what contracts look like or anything, but, you know.
Is the Wild Hack playoff ultimatum on public, or is that assumed?
No, it was public because he went on the Cuse Talk sports show, the ESPN radio show. I don't remember which one exactly.
Orange Nation,
but he did the same thing. Yeah, he did the thing that he did with Dino, which was our expectation is to be in the postseason. We have not met that expectation. And if that happens again this year, we will evaluate in kind of thing, where it's not, he's not saying go and take out the garbage or there's going to be hell to pay, but he's saying go and take out the garbage or there's going to be hell to pay.
Okay, so I think we can read between the letters and say that there is a make the NCAA tournament ultimatum.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be that case.
And if we only have one quad 1 win, one quad 2 win, and 2 quad 3 losses, and a net rating that is not even in the top 50, yeah, it's not going to look good.
No.
Speaking of net ratings, I'm still trying to wrap my head around Syracuse women's basketball.
Yes. Unfortunate for them today.
Yeah, it was a rough one against UNC. Took it to overtime and then kind of the game got away from them a little. But UNC is on the verge of the top 25 as far as receiving votes and whatnot. They probably, if depending on how things went, will be in next week. Cuse right now is sitting at 40 in the net,
Yes.
which they're 16-4 or 17-4.
No, they're 16-4.
16-4. And have looked really good against some teams and then looked really not good against Duke.
Well, but Duke is, based on preseason expectations, Duke isn't where they want to be, but Duke is still a quad win team. Duke is 15 in the net. So, the big thing with the Syracuse women is they don't have any bad losses.
Right.
Their worst loss is a home loss to Virginia Tech, who is quad 2, but Virginia Tech is one net ranking above them, and one net ranking below them. As Syracuse women right now are 40th, and Virginia Tech is 41. So, literally, their worst loss on this schedule is to that Virginia Tech team.
Right.
And, they've beaten every other team, at least in terms of teams that they should beat.
And they've got their best win.
Their two best wins are home against Stanford, and away at Virginia.
Okay.
Both teams in the top 40 in net.
Yeah, Virginia right above them at 38.
Yeah, and then Stanford at 36.
Yep. So yeah, we're kind of floating in that middle punching bag of the ACC.
It's the bigger thing that the reason why they're not higher up in projected tournament rankings right now and potential is because they don't have that big signature win. They have nice wins, but they don't have that big signature win,
right?
To vault them up higher. So I'm assuming they'll fall close to a first team, last 4 in spot in projected bracketology rankings when the next round of those come out.
Yeah,
I think
ESPN's
the only
recent
big game. Do they have any potential big games? Is it NC?
They've
got Louisville.
Yeah. So so the big ones that they have coming up is indeed the Louisville game. One you definitely have to clean up the trash on is at Miami. Miami's 45 in the net. And then you've got a brutal 3-game stretch at the end, right before the season finale. You got home against Clemson, who's 42, and then a crucial road trip at North Carolina State, who's 27 in the net, and at Notre Dame, who's 28 in the net.
So it seems like
that makes or breaks the women's season.
Right. It seems like that whole ACC middle of the pack is in that same bubble. Like whoever comes out of the next 3 weeks unscathed is moving on up.
Yeah.
You
just have to take you have to take care, obviously, of the lower teams. You play BC twice and Pitt, who are both lower than 200 in the net, which is a thing. And then, as long as you secure the games that you probably quote unquote should win, or the 50-50 games, then you can worry about trying to not getting the true signature win against Louisville, North Carolina State, and Notre Dame, because Georgia Tech is 92 in the net. Then you got that Miami and Clemson games. If you win those 3 games, the Georgia Tech, Miami, and Clemson games at a minimum, I think they're in the tournament.
All right.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Checking the ESPN bracketology, they are before this weekend's games. They were projected. They had moved up to the 8 line, which is fairly nice, and they moved up because a lot of teams on the 9 line ended up losing or moving off of that 8 line, like USC and Mississippi State.
And one of those 9 teams was Stanford.
Yes. So I think that there's, even with this loss to UNC, like Louisville, Virginia is still on the last 4 in. There's still teams like Oregon and Iowa State that are on the last 4 buys that are below them, that I don't know if they've climbed necessarily above them. But I think you're right, Christian, where the season is going to be that they need to get the signature win and they need to win the games that they should. Look, I think that they'll be in the tournament. It's just, obviously, if you're trying to play nice, you'd really like to move up. You don't want to be where they are now on that 8-9 matchup, because that 8-9 matchup means that you are playing a 1 seed if you move on. And that is the name of the game in the women's tournament, is how long can you avoid playing one of the top 2 seeds in this tournament, because if you get them early when they're coming off of, a glorified exhibition matchup in that 1-16, there's not a whole lot of hope you have. You want to get them a little bit more battered up. And right now, Syracuse would be in the Columbia region, which would mean they would get South Carolina, and not great, Bob. So
we've already seen what Syracuse might look like against one of those potential number 1 seeds. Michigan is 6 in the net right now, and they got shellacked by them.
Yeah, and they've definitely gotten better since then, but it's just a matter of, again, you as a team in that middle section play a tight, tough game, and then 2 days later you turn around and you have to play a team that had, got to play the victory cigars for a large period of time. And it's just about the matchups and how the tournament works.
I was going to make a point about BC being like sub 150 in the men's net, and then I realized how different the men's net and the women's net are. Like sub 2 and change is a lot worse than men's sub 2 and change as far as drop off, right?
Relatively speaking, but also BC should be in that low until they got a signature win against Syracuse. Sobs.
Oh yeah, point. Shit.
So until recent, I mean, yeah, never mind. It's.
Do you want to talk about the transfer portal?
Do we have to?
I mean, I don't necessarily love that idea, but I think it is time now that the biggest deadline for Syracuse football has come and passed, where the Syracuse Orange transfer class is put together. Since Christian and I talked last week, there hasn't been, I don't believe there was any changes this week with the class. Correct, Christian?
No.
Okay. So if you listened to our show last week, you hear us talk about a bunch of different players coming in. Unfortunately, I think that we should start because we have our big guy here. The trenches were not reinforced to the level that either of us felt comfortable with. Christian last week talked a lot about how at least the messaging coming out of France camp is that it's time to focus inward and focus on developing what is there instead of trying to continually bring in something from the outside. It's great messaging. It's done in an interesting way, but I still feel that the offensive side of the trenches needed more attention in the portal than was ultimately given.
Do we have a spring roster up yet or no?
No, we don't. But I can go.
Yeah.
I can run through the. I just because I wrote every single article. I know the full breadth of additions and losses. So there was only one transfer out in terms of transfers out. There was only one out on the offensive line, and that was Josh Miller. However, the big losses are the graduation losses.
Yeah.
And that's Demetrius Weatherspoon, Austin Collins, and TJ Ferguson. So that's 3 starters.
Our 3 highest rated PFF linemen, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and those 3 are gone due to graduation.
Yep.
So that's one of the biggest reasons why you're concerned about the offensive line is that you're replacing 3 starters.
Yeah, and that happens from time to time on the line. We had depth there. Miller was part of that depth, especially at center, which I don't know if you've listened to this podcast before, but we've talked about centers, and that they're relatively important. However, the shuffle with coaching gives me some hope that there might be some development along the offensive line instead of the relative stagnation that we were seeing. You have a extremely veteran coach coming in. You have a transfer coming in from UCLA as well, following him. And these things point all signs towards, at least some semblance of a plan. I do wish they'd have brought in a couple other commits. That would have been really, really nice to see. As far as offensive linemen go, but Castillo he's got a proven track record for what he's done. He's been all over the place. From pro level and college level as well, and almost all of it as an offensive line coach or in the somewhere ancillarily tied to the offensive line. So maybe it is something where I don't want to say that they're complacent with what they've got, but they don't feel nearly as bad about what's still around compared to what they could have. It looks like total losses are Collins, Padelberga, who played very minimally, Demetrius Weatherspoon, and Ferguson.
Carter Clark also, but he was a walk-on.
Right. And Petrie is whatever Petrie is.
Horning knee replacement.
Yeah, 73rd year. I don't think he's eligible anymore.
No,
but
he has said that he
Yeah.
said when he was out for the season that he's going to turn pro.
Yep. Which I mean, I wish that had worked out better for him because he had some promise too.
Yeah.
And he seemed like a really good guy. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not a crazy amount of movement. It's just like you said, 3 of them are starters. And Miller was one of the backups. So I mean, maybe Bertrand makes a jump. Maybe Zach Rice makes a jump. Like there's guys they brought in. There's guys that are very large human beings now that are on this line. Like Kadir Shepard. He's 6'7". He's a mammoth of a man. Do something with it. You got Byron Washington who got a ton of snaps this year. Like if he can take the Byron Washingtons and the Trevian Max and like mold them into something, then I think we actually might be in a lot better spot than we thought we were. Call me optimistic and crazy because I probably am, but I don't know. Cam Pringle, like there's a lot of guys that we brought in with a lot of promise, and maybe he's able to see some of this promise through. D-line, I still have no idea.
Well, it definitely feels like on the defensive line they did a pretty good job of shoring up on that side of the ball because you bring in 2 defensive tackles and 2 edge rushers.
They brought in 2 DTs. I thought they only grabbed 1.
The defensive tackles. Let me pull it up on my end here. Is Jatavius Flowney? Oh yeah, it was only 1. My bad. It was no Dylan Fontes from Maryland as well.
Oh,
I see him more as a defensive tackle than an edge guy.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Just based on what his size is, and then the edge rushers in Keyshawn Johnson and Tumise Adeleye from UNLV.
I guess that's another thing. Like, what was Karras running at Toledo?
I'm not sure. That is a very good question. I know when Andy and I were first talking about additions to the portal, the one that excited me the most was Keyshawn Johnson, who put up some very good numbers. And
he should catch passes like crazy.
I know, right? It's incredible. But much like Demetrius Samuel, he'll play on both sides of the ball. No, we're not talking about the Jets wide receiver.
Edge rusher and wide receiver would be a combo right
there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it is actually spelled the exact same way also. But he had some great numbers at UT Martin, was their conference player, defensive player of the year, first team All-American at the FCS level. I really like him at least as a defensive line addition.
It looks like Karras runs that 4.25 as well.
Okay.
So
something that also that the team's familiar with as well for the guys who are, coming in.
Yeah, it might be some nice new change-ups there. So
yeah, so I'm happy with what they did on the on at least on the defensive side of the trenches, but on the offensive side of the trenches, as we've all alluded to, it's you hope that the remaining talent is good.
Yeah.
I feel obviously a little bit more confident in Fran just because we've we've seen this work so far in terms of his talent evaluation. We've seen this work in terms of being a recipe for success elsewhere across the board. I think the biggest issue that I have right now is obviously going into spring ball. There's a lot of quarterbacks back there, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a look we get at any of these quarterbacks and if Angeli is involved. And the reason I say this is because we are replacing basically the entire wide receiver room. And as anybody here can say, like, that connection between the wide receiver and the quarterback is pretty crucial. And building those reps and building those muscles is going to be interesting to see how they do it if Angeli is not able to be a full participant in spring, which again, I would assume he's not based off of all things, but Fran has continued to say publicly and in the press conferences he did this week, continued to say that, Angeli's rehabbing aggressively and
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him full go in spring with, limited contact, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him out there.
I think
and
the
that
big
would
thing,
be
I think the big thing is that the wide receiver quarterback relationship thing. It's proven at Syracuse, even before Fran has come here, that a wide receiver can have success at Syracuse. I mean, Eric Dungy had a different boundary wide receiver every single year and set records with them. I know that's with a different offense, but I mean, again, look with what Fran did in his first year, with a capable quarterback and a wide receiver group that was, also very, very new to Kyle McCord. Found trust with 3 of them because 3 of them went for over 900 yards, if I remember correctly. So, and it's a lot of it, obviously, last year was due to just how raw the quarterback situation was. And, I think a lot of people would agree that, if Angeli stays healthy, that the wide receivers have a much better year than what eventually showed. So just based on what's being, shown there, yes, you have a new wide receivers coach as well, but it's a wide receiver coach with proven track record as well.
Yeah.
So
and who's been around the program too for the last year and change.
Exactly. So I don't think I'm as concerned about that. I still think the biggest concern is the offensive line, and I just like it is every year for Syracuse. Because I think a lot based on what they've added and just previous track record, this is something we can't say about Syracuse basketball. Because they don't have the previous track record for us to be convinced that new additions and transfer portal additions and roster upheaval will not affect the ending result. Because we've seen that, everyone was new last year and it worked. I mean, what I should say last year in 2024, everyone was new in 2024 and they all worked well together. The quarterback stays healthy in 2025. It looks a lot different. So
it really does. And that I had that conversation with a couple of friends this weekend of, we're leading the nation in passing coming into that Clemson game, and after that Clemson game, and the only thing that changed is one guy blew his Achilles out, and the wheels just came off.
Yeah, because you got to remember it's a team sport.
Yeah,
defense doesn't get nearly as tired. If the offense stays on the field a bit longer.
Right. One thing I didn't realize is I pulled up the list of current coaches, like what our final list looks like.
Yeah, our coaching staff. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize we only had 3 holdovers, and one of them is Gaddis, who was an analyst last year.
Yeah, you got to. So there were 4 firings, but quote unquote firings.
Right.
But everyone, you could, if you want to consider the Robinson demotion a firing. Yes, you could see that as well. But it was more so demotion and left. So the others were, leaving because it was
Right.
Nunzio
Williams to
Campanelli.
Florida State.
No,
and-
yeah, Nick Williams goes to Florida State, and Nunzio Campanelli goes to UConn.
Yep. Yeah.
So yes, it's 4 changes. And I think the four plan changes I think were, the right moves. I think for a lot of people, except for the special teams coordinator. It's for Ricky Brumfield, but we'll see how Alex Bayer does in that role as special teams coordinator. And then the other 3 were unplanned moves, and that based on who you got, seem to be decent additions to your room to replace them.
Yeah.
So you got a quarterback coach in Sean Ryan who has got some pretty good experience to replace him. Your defensive line coach is not even your defensive coordinator and still is your associate head coach in John Stott Jr. And then you have an edge coach in Jeremy Hawkins, who, much like Nick Williams, is generally accepted in the coaching world as a pretty good recruiter. So
I like what they've done holistically, and again, I think Fran. We saw this when Fran came in. He knows that there's not going to be coaches that stick here forever. I think Jeff Nixon is another one who hopefully goes on to bigger and better things, but Fran seems to have a nice Rolodex of guys that he wants to give a shot to, some of which are guys that are on the up, and some are guys that I think are just super talented and have kicked around, and he just knows them from circles. And I really do like this staff in general, and I feel good about the development that's going to happen. But Christian, to your point, I think none of it matters if you can't protect the quarterback, because we've seen that play out here in the pre-Fran era. Oh, we've seen that play out.
Yep.
Other football news this week, just 2 things to kind of keep note of. The football schedule for the ACC is dropping tomorrow. I believe we get the full schedule tomorrow on the ACC network. They're doing a TV, NFL kind of TV show drop tomorrow night, so something to look out for. We'll be breaking that down on next week's show. But there are 2 games that are already announced from our independent opponents. UConn announced their schedule this week. We will be traveling to Storrs, Connecticut to play, Hartford, Connecticut to play at Paws Arf on October the 3rd. So that game is usually a strong contingent of Orange fans traveling up to Connecticut for that one. And most interestingly, Notre Dame released their schedule early. Notre Dame will be coming to the Carrier Dome the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which I believe is November 27th.
Which means they'll be traveling back in time to play in the Carrier Dome.
It is the Carrier Dome to me, damn it. Okay, I refuse to call it by its new name.
Hey, we're back on the Andy is old train.
This is the second week in a row you've done this.
I refuse to call it the JMA Dome. I know it is the JMA Dome. I know it's my Wi-Fi is literally called JMA Dome, and in my brain it is still the Carrier Dome. Okay, this is an issue that I have.
All right, people who want to steal Andy's Wi-Fi, write that down.
Yeah, the password is very on brand. But they will be Syracuse will be playing Notre Dame at the JMA Dome. Final game of the season, Saturday, the 28th of November. That will probably be the hottest ticket in town for a variety of reasons. No student section for that game either, so Syracuse is probably licking their chops with the extra tickets that they can sell for that one. Definitely something to pay attention to, but we know 2/12 of the Syracuse schedule right now, and it's those 2 games.
The Notre Dame Senior Day game is very, very interesting because Syracuse in general doesn't, schedule a quote unquote harder opponent for those, for that like final game of the season for that Senior Day game. Like the only one that has been done that in recent memory has been the Miami game, in 2024. Usually the last game of the season for Syracuse isn't as high profile of an opponent.
No, and I do think it's interesting just because over the last couple of years we've seen that rivalry weekend really heat up in terms of television rankings. Like every year since the playoff, that rivalry weekend has continued to gain more viewers at a pace that is rivaling the NFL in ways that I didn't think would happen on Fridays and Saturdays. I think a lot of that is also the NFL oversaturation on NFL on Thursdays that install your 5th streaming service to watch whatever game will be on Thanksgiving at 8:00 at night. So I think that's part of it. But I do think the interesting part about playing Notre Dame on that game, it is the ACC officially standing up and saying, look, Syracuse, BC, and Pitt are not your rivals for this. We don't view that as a rivalry game that needs to be protected. That is not something that we view here. But for Notre Dame, I do think it's interesting because that game because it's a road game, I'm assuming that ESPN ABC will get rights to it instead of NBC. And that, if you're Syracuse, as we said, with rivalry weekend, there is a lot of opportunity for ABC to have a stacked lineup that day, but it's Notre Dame. Notre Dame will get a prime time slot there. And again, the last time that we had a prime opponent come in on this game was that Miami game. And that was snowed in Erie, Pennsylvania under 3 feet of lake effect snow, and got to watch that game in the background of shoveling. And my God, that was a great, great game.
That was fun to be at also.
We start with snow, we end with snow. It's snowing all the time. We're a Syracuse podcast. What do you expect?
We should end on one more thing before we officially wrap up. Because for those who didn't realize that, the Syracuse men's lacrosse season actually starts this weekend.
Hey, Christian, do the lacrosse thing. What's happening?
It's a ranked opponent, actually. It's number 17, Boston University, who will come to the JMA Wireless Dome to kick off things for Syracuse on Sunday, 1 p.m. For the Syracuse men. The women will kick their season off next week. On Friday, they'll play Maryland, which is going to be tough for them, as Maryland lacrosse is always very tough. But for the men, they're quick and early on, February 1st, Sunday. So literally 7 days from now, we get spring lacrosse, even though it's definitely not spring right now.
The lacrosse season is here. Terrifyingly, I found out that there are lacrosse options on DraftKings when I was in New Jersey, which is just a level that I could not stoop myself to go to. But apparently lacrosse is all the rage for degenerates in the state of New Jersey. Do with that as you will.
That actually kind of tracks.
It actually does when I think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Yep.
Steve is the voice of reason here.
Yeah, no.
On that note,
Christian, do we have another one of those stupid lacrosse schedules where it's like all ranked teams all the time?
Yes. So Steve, you don't know about the Cork and Syracuse schedule this year, which is from February 21st to March 16th. Syracuse will play 6 road games. And they are not gimmies. Because the first three of that road trip are Harvard, Princeton, and Penn. And then and then you follow it up with Johns Hopkins, which is obviously very fun.
Great.
And then over a spring break, they take a Colorado road trip to play Air Force and then Denver.
Sure.
And then they return to the Dome on March 22nd. So who
does our lacrosse scheduling again?
You tell me, but they will indeed go more than a month in between home games at the Dome. They play the presumed title favorites in Maryland on February 13th. That will be a great game because depending on who you ask, Maryland and Syracuse are 1 and 2. And then on March 22nd, they come back to the Dome to play Georgetown.
Huh.
So
and that stretch after that, Duke, UNC, Virginia,
there's your ACC schedule, followed by a Colgate Senior Day
random
game in the
Colgate
middle.
game thrown in there for shits and giggles, and then Notre Dame. Great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
literally, like their season, they are prepping for their season with an Ivy League burst and then a Denver road trip with a
On the road.
Falcons rivalry in between.
Seems suboptimal.
It's a good way to test them early on.
Oh, it's definitely a litmus test as to whether they're, one of those favorites with Maryland, like you're talking. But
And don't
yeah,
forget,
might be doing yourself any favors.
a lot of polls actually have Syracuse rated as 3. Syracuse is actually 3rd. Who's number 2? Princeton.
Sweet. Yeah. So we get Maryland in the Dome, and then travel to Princeton on the road.
Yes.
Cool. I might have to be in the Dome for that February 13th one, though.
That's a doubleheader for you as well, because the
Oh.
women will be at the Dome earlier that day on 2:30.
Nice.
They
There you
will get
go.
crushed by North Carolina, but that's besides the point.
Well,
And yes, that is a North Carolina game for the Syracuse women's lacrosse team for the second game of the season, after you play Maryland to open the season.
Jesus, man.
It's not a gimme to start off for Reggie Thorpe.
Like I said earlier, who is scheduling our lacrosse seasons? Whoever it is, they need to stop.
The exact opposite of the football scheduling and the basketball scheduling team.
Oh, you want to flip for the
It's
women?
just somebody who sits in the corner and is like, I don't like the way you do things.
You want to flip for the women as well? February 20th, Friday, they travel to California to play Stanford. Then on Tuesday, February 24th, at home versus Loyola. Then on February 28th, that Saturday, they go to Louisville to play Kentucky. Then on March 3rd, they go back to no, they come back home to the Dome, but they play Cal. So that's a
Yeah.
that's a trip for the women.
Well, then you've got, Yale home, turnaround 4 days later at Virginia, and then 3 days later at UAlbany, which is,
It's a condensed schedule for the women.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all.
Oh, well, that is kind of the vibe that we were going for with this show. So,
Yeah. We're just finishing up right in on brand.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's this week's edition of the Disloyal Idiots podcast. We've covered all your spring sports and a little bit of fall sports needs here. Thank you for following, liking, subscribing. Make sure that you continue to press that button if this is your first time watching the show. It helps us trick the AI into expanding the Ottoman Empire. Thank you so much to our sister site, newsmagician.com. We really appreciate the great writing that some of us are doing over there. The rest of the team over there continuing to support us. Know that that's big for everybody here. Thank you again to Fans First Sports Network, again, part of the Fans First Sports Network here. And we will continue to do this on Sunday nights-ish at 8 p.m.-ish, as long as we can continue to dig ourselves out of whatever snowstorm hits us next week. It's going to be fun to talk about some football next week. Maybe we get some better news in basketball, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Either way, definitely going to be some Syracuse things to talk about next week, and we'll talk to you then. As always, go Orange.
Go Orange.